bit coming now here. It's amazing. I did it here. She's so happy. I love the smile too. This bit, amazing. She really felt like she was drumming so hard and she was like losing, you know, like 10 kilograms of fat or whatever. Thor reacts to the hero from Hagane. Of course, I am a hero, guys. If anything, I am right. It's the greatest hero in the world. This is the perfect song to be listened to. No, but no, serious, right? If one thing that I always embody in my life, right, is of course this thing, right? This paint is almost behind me, right? Spider-Man, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. I truly love this thing. Of course, I'm a big Marvel fan, and I have Captain America and Hulk and so on, right? But I have 3 Spider-Man paintings in my house. This is actually my smallest one, but it perfectly fits behind me here, right? Because being a hero is what life's about, right? For example, you know, I'm a huge fan, right, of My Academia. Massive fan of My Academia. I have, for example, this Miracle figure. I haven't opened yet, right? Of course, best character in My Academia. So, you know, being a hero, as I am, right, super important, you know, what it means to be a hero, right? It's all about self-sacrifice. That's why I really like My Academia, seriously. Because the anime really captures the feeling of, right, what to be a hero. It's about, honestly, again, sacrifice. Anyway, long intro, but the thing is that I want to point out, right, I think Spider-Man, and now of course in anime, but comic book Spider-Man, really captures the hero, right? Because I always loved how Peter Parker has just a terrible life, you know what I mean? It's always like, oh, I have a date with Felicia Hardy or Mary Jane or whatever, but I have to stop Shocker or, you know, this thing or Rhino or so on. So it's all about him always sacrificing his own life and health or whatever, right, to do the right thing. Amazing intro. That was a great. I can't punch too hard. Okay, must be angry at me. Genuinely, you can't see it here, guys, but I have used my hammer too much, guys. So this table here, right, that I'm punching right now, I have a massive amount of like hits on it. Wood is hitting away, okay? Because I kind of want to bang this thing too much now, right? But that was a really good drumming opening. That was fantastic. I know a lot of people in the last video, right, a few days ago, my first reaction to this band, right, people were like, you didn't talk about the drummer enough, right? I'm not saying it was bad or anything, but I think this song here, the drumming felt, you know, yeah, this was here, well, this was clearly much more like, okay, now I see it, right? Honestly, yeah, now I see it. Certainly. Massively, though. Massively. And, how I say it, generally speaking, I mentioned this in all of you too, is that I, as a person, right, I like high tempo songs, I like, you know, metal, I've always been a big, you know, Japanese music fan, right, I grew up with anime, right, so I always liked when the bands have very high tempo, IDA, pop, J-rock, usually they're not, but regardless, I really like it when the song here, in mid and opening, goes like that. That was a really good start here. So I feel this here, the drumming stands out. The drumming stands out more, I think, than in the 5. Yeah, I think so. But let's go. Oh, that was amazing. That's amazing, man. Now, this band is good, man. It's good. You know, I love the shreds. I always keep saying it right. That's why I keep doing the LOVEBITES right. You know, freaking Midori Miyako every time, man. And for that matter, we do another LOVEBITES tomorrow, right? Subscribe for more LOVEBITES too, of course. But yeah, that was really good. I want to say one thing, though. I'm going to be very, very honest, guys. In the background here. Okay, go back a bit. I'm honest, guys. I am not actually not a big fan, right, of them having code in the background. I'm just gonna be honest. Not a big fan. So, okay. I know the code, right? I'm not the best coder ever. I don't do much coding, but, you know, I look at code every day at work, right? Even though I hate it. But anyway, my point is that... I don't know about you guys, leave a comment below, but if you're like me, right, you are, you know, you have an experience as a developer, you know, I won't get too much about my job, I can't talk about my job too much, but basically, right, I started with the game industry, after I finished university, right, so I worked in Blizzard, worked in Diablo, right, when Warcraft and so on, right, Hearthstone and so on, right, and while I am a designer, right, and a creative guy rather, mostly, game design, you know, level design and so on, right, I also have been a technical designer, lead technical designer and so on. I write the code, the scripts, stuff like that. So, short resume, but I have to say, honestly, guys, I am distracted, okay? This was great, but I was a little bit distracted, honestly, right? Because when I'm seeing the code over there, I'm trying to read the code, okay? Let's be honest, right? I'm that kind of nerdy developer, right? When I see the code in the background, the plane is making music, but half my brain is like, okay, there's like a for loop. It's like an if statement, allocate the memory to move the data over there. You know, my brain is trying to like read the code. I'm just kidding, guys. It's like flashing code in the background, and my brain is trying to like read the text code. Because I think, especially when I work, I don't, you know, I don't create so much code these days myself, right? That's been like over 10 years ago that I wrote code myself. But I look at a lot of code, right? Now, just this morning, I was looking at this AI thing, right? That someone else wrote, right? Can't go into it, this is all confidential or whatever, right? But I was looking at their code. I was looking at what the AI was creating based on their code, based on how the model was acting. So I was like, trying to understand what their code was calling in this whatever thing. So it's a lot like that. So especially kind of reading code and reading scripts or whatever. Sometimes, right, I help out with that, you know, old Thor guy, you know, old warrior mode, old hero mode, right? But anyway, I digress. But honestly, it's a little bit distracting. And actually, very quick side note here. Sorry, I'm super nerdy now, but honestly, right? I thought about this in LOVEBITES, whatever, right? That I was at NASA and all the fun stuff, right? When you give lectures, so I used to be a lecturer at the university for a couple of years. Also, I've done it for the schools too, so, but university lecturer a little bit and teach some classes or whatever, right? I always tell people this thing, and I told people this thing, they worked at NASA and so on too, right? That when you're gonna give a speech or whatever, right, you're gonna explain something, don't actually have code on your PowerPoint, whatever. So it's very common, right? You talk to your general NASA dude or some other similar scientist, that they might say, oh, I'm going to explain this problem. We fixed this algorithm, right? And they're going to have code on the same time when they're talking. That is never a good idea, okay? It's never a good idea because what people do is exactly what I'm explaining, right? That this scientist guy, he's really good, he's brilliant, right? He's going to explain to us like the opening, right, of how this algorithm works, and they show the code at the same time. Half the audience are not going to listen. Half the audience will, that's right, I mean, read the code instead, right? So you should do, of course, is first introduce the algorithm or the issue, right? You talk about the wicked issue sometimes, whatever, big problems. So first introduce that, right? First introduce the issue that you're dealing with. Oh, we want to land on the moon. How? Well, we have to calculate the gravity, blah, blah, okay. First introduce that, right? Then you talk about the challenges, what you overcome, right? You explain the algorithm, and then you show the code, right? You know, you can't show them at the same time in the beginning, because people tune out from the explanation, okay? So here it starts like that. Last time I thought about nail polish, and now instead I'm like, let me explain to you how to land a rocket on the moon. But yeah, you're the hero, the amazing chorus bit here. But you get the point, it's like this is the Matrix code right in the back, come on. bit coming now here. It's amazing. I did it here. Just so happy. I love the smile too. The bit, amazing. That is a great thing, yeah. And I like her smile too, right? You know, I always say this thing, right? Japanese performers, especially female, but also males, you know. But especially female musicians in Japan, right? Always so goddamn happy. It's a lot about them, right? So it goes to everyone. Band, love, metal, whatever. All of them, right? Everyone's ready to. They're also happy, right? And of course, don't get wrong. The drummer here, she's amazing. Top of the opening, right? But she doesn't have Akane smiling from Batman. We're gonna see if she doesn't have Akane is at the Joker smile, you know. She's the happiest drummer alive. That is. But like I said, I love when the musician really enjoys for doing right. And I think it is because I am very ingrained in Japanese culture, I would say, right? I think it's a very Japanese mindset, talking about being a hero here, right? Because Japanese mentality is very much like, you know, you're kind of proud of your job, you take it seriously, right? Very good work ethics. It's kind of like you're your own hero, right? But I always say that, you know, I think there is no better work culture than Japanese culture, right? And I know people, you know, sometimes they get overworked or whatever, right? And that is true, and it might be too harsh or whatever to some extent. But I do think that there's no other culture, honestly, that has as good a work culture as Japan. Because yes, like I said, it might be overworked and so on, right? But that is better than basically any other work culture, right? Because any other thing is that every work culture, right, on the whole planet has issues, you know what I mean? Many issues, right? And the Japan issue is, of course, high pressure, not but rest, and so forth, right? And that stuff, right? But the benefit is getting this kind of feeling, I feel, people are their own hero, right? People are happy what they're doing, right? People are proud of the job and so on. So that's the most important thing, I think, in Japanese culture overall, that you are proud of your investment, you're proud of your time, spent this thing, right? And it goes already from the kids there, when the kids are like having to clean up whatever the schools and right? It's a lot of this like community and so on, which I miss in all the culture. So I think it's a huge thing, not just for like the musical performance in Japan, but it comes from like some kind of deep-rooted work culture, I think, rather in Japan than just, you know, whatever artist and so forth, right? Super deep video now. But this is my video, guys. I need to subscribe, right? I go on tangents, guys. We're talking about NASA, we're talking about code here, talking about how to write a goddamn script. So I'm gonna sit there and show you code. Like, this is how you write now. this is how you do this thing now, you know? But now we're talking about Japanese culture here. But I do think that's like a big thing, right? It's always like a common thing with Japanese bands, that they're so happy, right? They're so goddamn happy, man. But it seems this is what I mean, so you believe in yourself, you know, this is very Japanese. Man, this drumming is amazing. It's crazy. This is the best recommendation I ever got, man. I like how YouTube even recommends myself now, yeah. That to me actually is weird, right? So it's Black Clover, because I listened to this song 10 times, for the previous video, and then my own video. But isn't that weird how YouTube is like, I think you will love yourself. I do love myself, YouTube. But anyway, first and foremost, I love the drummer she's dying in the end there. I love she was hitting it really felt like she was giving it her all, right? And so you was talking about, with like, work culture, be proud of yourself, right? Because she was like, she really felt like she was drumming so hard and she was like losing, like 10 kilograms of fat or whatever. It's kind of like, have you ever heard the joke with Michael Jackson, right? I love and heard this joke like 10 years ago, whatever, that he never actually had surgery, right? He never had surgery. What actually did was he danced so much that he'd sweat away all his body. Because, it's really, really, of course, exhausting, right? Doing a performance, right? As a musician, right? And man, she looks so tired. I love it. This is mad respect, right? She looks like she is, like she's sacrificing her soul here to play it. She looks incredibly exhausted at the end there. But like I said, I think this is a drummer taking this performance the most, right? Absolutely. But that's just the feeling, as you talked about, like that, right? You have that. It's like, no, I'm doing this, right? And I think that I thought about it in a lot of other videos, but you kind of like you like artists, right? They give it their all, and it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm playing music because of the money, right? You know what I mean? And that's been a lot of my videos been about, right? Actually, I think for the last few months now, when it comes to my detractors as well, is that I am very focused on just making stuff that I want to make, right? And I think that we need more of that in the world. We need more like this person here that is like, I want to play this thing, right? And it feels like if no one else was here, she would still play it, you know what I mean? That's what I expect, right, in musicians, right? Or any artist, of course. It has to be music, it can be a graphic artist, whatever, right? Where it's kind of like, no, but I'm making this stuff because I want to make it, right? I'm not making it because this gives me the most views or the most sold albums or whatever, right? This is what I want to produce, you know what I mean? That's what you want to have, right? For example, I met and interviewed and worked a bit with Hideaki Kamiya. There was like Bayonetta and so on, right, of fame, and Devil May Cry, of course, before. So I know him slightly a little bit personally, and I always loved so much. And this is before I met him, but this is why I felt he was sort of a badass, Japanese creator. Because in an interview, someone asked him like, why do you do this thing with Bayonetta or whatever, right? And I remember reading this thing. I was in like a grad school. I was like, this is the guy I want to work with, right? Because he was like, I want to do it, And they were like, oh, but and it was so funny because he was explaining that, they have what's called a focus group, right? So you produce that. You produce a video game or a music or whatever, right? And then you let people, listen to the music, and then they give you, oh, actually, I want to be faster, or I think the game is so easy, and so forth. You know what I mean? So the company, right, they forced him to have this focus group, which is new game, right? Before it was like a beta version of it. And they told him, oh, this is too hard, this thing, that, right? And he was like, yeah, I threw it away. Right? He was like, F you people. He was like, I hate them all. They're all wrong. This is my vision, yeah. And the only reason he had that group, right, was because of the CEO forced him to have it, right? He was like, I don't care about it. I have my artistic vision. I don't care what they tell me, I screwed them, He made his game and he sold millions, right? And that's, and even if he was wrong, right? I think that's more fun, right? You know what I mean? It's more fun. People say, I don't care. This is what I want to make. Yeah, I'm just pretending to listen to people. And of course, I'm not saying you should never listen to other people, right? It's a big difference, right? But you know what I mean? He had like his vision, right? Lyric-wise, though, this song definitely reminds me of kind of like Tenka Toppa Gurren Lagann. Honestly, it's a little bit of that. Yeah, it's like you are the hero. Believe in yourself to believe in you. That's a take on the lyrics. But I kind of like that. Because I mean, the way I look at it, right, is like I mentioned, it goes into that like a Japanese mindset of this. I would say this is maybe not necessarily how I would like define what heroism is, right, in the common sense. But this is more like you are your own hero, the internal heroism, right, doing what you can do in situations. So I like the lyrics. But I probably would maybe describe it as something else than maybe hero as a word. Stoic, perhaps, right? Righteous, maybe a little bit, but maybe that's wrong too. But it does feel like the lyrics are going more into that typical, what can you do in the given context, right? Or situations, you know what I mean? Like, believe in yourself. Yeah, it's a little more self-confidence kind of song, right? Certainly. I would say, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I think heroism is more about the self-sacrifice, right? It's more about being willing to take damage yourself to help someone else. Right? Like I said, Peter Parker is a great character because he always loses stuff, right? To save innocent people, right? So forth. So this, but of course, the lyrics here are also more realistic, right? They're more pragmatic. They're more focused on everyday life. You and me, everyday life, going to work, right? What can you do going to work? So they're more focused on that realistic sense, right? Not having superpowers, whatever, I guess. Certainly in that sense, right? Obviously, shredding here is amazing. She's very talented, incredibly fast shredding. Love her smile too, we saw a bit as well. Here. But yeah, but I think that the biggest is the drumming though, because she looks so, yeah, like you see here, she looks so like she hit the drums. She looks like she's almost dying there. At that point, I was really I don't know, but I'm laughing at incitement. Okay, I'm laughing as in, oh, I love this thing, I love it. She's so you know, she's so into it. No, but it was a great song. Like I said in the beginning, I really like how it starts out immediately high tempo. It never slows down. In that sense, though, I actually think that I really like that in the first song that I listened to, of course, last week. How they had that moment, right? How they had that moment when the song was a little more, you know, okay, here's like a pause, right? An intermission. And they changed it, right, into this, you know, more white, shiro, this like, bleaked out world, right? I did like that part though, because it went from like, you know, really high tempo up here to down and high tempo again. So it kind of gave us a little bit breathing room. This song here was like massive high tempo all the way through. Even though I do, like I said, I do love it. I prefer it when the band has high tempo. The drumming is all in the beginning was really high. I liked it though, but I do think I like that kind of the structure of the music maybe has a little bit of a, like I said, intermission eventually. It also depends on how long the song is though. This performance is a little bit more than 4 minutes. If it's like a 7-8 minute live performance, then I would definitely expect several different parts like that, right? One band, for example, I have mentioned, I think is really good at that is Wagaki band, right? Japanese instrumental band. Links below for ever mentioned that. I think they are very good at that. But they tend to have like, you know, really long live performances, right? Like 8-9 minutes sometimes. And they have like almost 3 songs in one song, right? Where they have like high tempo, massive slowdown, high tempo, adding new instruments, right? Slow down, adding more instruments, high tempo again. Yeah, they can have that thing, right? They have several intermissions usually, and they kind of increase and decrease who's actually playing it. Because there's so many band members, right? They kind of like, they put out and in, you know, people basically. so they have a very interesting structure. But that's why I like the band too, because they have like a very different. It's a very interesting journey, right? Every time you find a new song from them, it's an interesting journey. Because like I said, it feels like almost every song is like 3 or 4 songs in one song, right? So that's very, very cool as well. Absolutely. But yeah, now you get subscribe, press the like button. And I think next Hagane, we probably will do Sword of Judgment. Maybe I should do a pool, right? But as usually, you know, I'll read your comments, of course, and I will, you know, look at which comments get the most upvotes or whatever, right? But I also kind of every time I hear the word sword, I'm like, oh, katana! I have a lot of katanas. You know, immediately I'm like, yes, katanas. And with that band, of course, obviously the band name means steel, right? You know, like metal, right? You can imagine that a lot of songs will have like blades and swords in them, right? Which is, of course, badass. No, who doesn't love a badass sword, right? And actually, yeah. If I do, I will show you a new sword next video. Because I showed already before, but I have like a lot of swords, right? I have a family sword, my Dao sword, my katanas, right? So I'll show you a new sword in the next video then. But otherwise, if you're interested in my weapon collection, you can go and look at my, as I mentioned, then the Wagaki bands. Because in my Wagaki band reactions, I show you one new weapon per video, basically. The intro of my Wagaki band is like, here's a nunchuck, here is a kama. It's like this weapon is here's a kusuri fundo. Yeah, it's like I have a lot of them. I have like an arsenal, of different stuff, right? So, but anyway, so you guys can have a great day.